galaxy, Chicago. Now, I'm going to get into my thesis in just a moment, but Chicago is central in the U.S.'s history. The 8-hour workday invented in Chicago through labor movements. Blues, creating rock and roll. Chicago blues started in Chicago. Rock and roll, one of America's great products. Basketball became a worldwide sport with the help of Michael Jordan from Chicago. Chicago, the U.S. And we're celebrating America's history, and we're going to celebrate this great city that has been a central part of this great country. Now, here's my thesis for today. My thesis is that Chicago is a city in motion, always moving, changing, and adapting to meet the challenges and needs of the day. And throughout Chicago's history, it has moved countless people and goods. The city has also moved bigger things like culture, entertainment, labor rights, civil rights, technology, industry, all the things and more into the city, and also into the built environment, to the roof, to the bridges, and most importantly, the buildings. You ready to talk about some buildings? And we will. But first, 4 other things. We gotta talk nicknames. River. Nicknames were called the Windy City because of our wind, but there's another reason. Back in the 1800s, late 1800s, a bunch of Chicago people ran to New York and were trying to convince people to bring this amazing fair to the city. They kept yapping about Chicago's the best, Chicago's the best, you gotta bring this fair to Chicago. Wouldn't stop yapping about how great Chicago was. One New York official is on record having said, man, those blowhard Chicago windbags, Windy City, won't stop yapping their traps. So my goal for all 203 of you today, I just counted, is that you live this boat. It's official, certified, 100% Chicago windbags. You find a reason to yap your trap about how much you love this city as much as I do. That's my goal. Seats. The origin of Chicago, there's a hint in this expressway. Up ahead, Lakeshore Drive. We renamed it DuSable Drive recently after Jean-Baptiste Pointe de Sable, the first non-native settler here, the founding father of Chicago. He was an Afro-Caribbean immigrant. Chicago was established by an Afro-Caribbean immigrant, creating a great line of immigrants who make the city what it is. He arrived around 1770, around right when the United States was born. And he didn't realize it, but Mr. DuSable, when he set up his fur trading hut by the shores of the 5-foot wide river, he was planting the seed for what was going to grow to the beautiful city. Are opening up, there's a mist, there's a fog, it feels magical. Happy 4th of July. Onto land.
Maria,
Land, to our left and right, is very unique because it is all man.
27.
Who here has been to a street called
Okay.
Yes, many of you have. Michigan Avenue gets its name because back in the day, Michigan Avenue is where Lake Michigan met the city. Everything between where we started, 2 bridges down from here, all of it used to be the lake still. We filled all of this up with the ruins and rubble from the Great Chicago Fire. A tragedy we'll talk about later. But we used the pieces of a tragedy to build an even better city. It's very poetic. It says something about this tough town, resilient town, city of broad shoulders. It's why we have Chicago. And the name Chicago comes from the native people. They used to call this place home, the Potawatomi. In their language, Chicago meant smelly onion. Because back in the day, along the banks of the river, naturally grown wild onions didn't smell very good here. Original pronunciation. Chicago didn't smell good. Now the Potawatomi were members of the Council of 3 Fires, 3 native tribes, the Odawa, the Ojibwe, the Potawatomi. Each other in the land. This was their home. They were the stewards of this land. And their legacy is in our name, but it's also in our city. Because the early settlers who arrived here first, who led to what the city would become, would not have survived a month in the wilderness, in the heat, in the swamp, had it not been for the ancestral wisdom of those native people and their generosity to share with these new arrivals. So, their legacy of these native people is in our name, in our city, and in their descendants, still part of our community. One more thing, river and buildings. We're currently traveling in the direction of the river, west. But for over 7,000 years, the river flowed east until humans, us, we reversed it. We reversed the river. We did it because pesky humans, with their industry, dumped all their trash and sewage into the river, flowed into the lake, which is where we got our glug, glug, glug drinking water. By the late 1800s, thousands of Chicagoans dying every year from waterborne diseases from our polluted river. A crisis. We had to figure it out. One guy did. Ellis Chesbrough, a civil engineer, self-taught.
Yes.
He realized to the west of our rivers and
Ay,
the
na,
Des Plaines
lambi
that
mali.
south, between our two rivers, and dip and angle, a slant, a ridge in the Earth's surface, called a subcontinental divide. Mr. Chesbrough proposed digging a canal along this slant, massive canal, and using just gravity to reverse the flow of the river, and we did. We got some fans of the river canal. In the last decade of the 1800s, they know it's coming up. They know it's coming up. In the last decade of the 1800s, workers dug up enough soil to fill our tallest building today 22 times. Shovels and dynamite. And on January 2nd, 1900, this is what they're cheering for. The last dam is blown. City waters rushing us. First time in because none of us would be here today with our wet ponchos, with our arm bags, with our raincoats, our sweatpants. None of this would be happening today had it not been for that act. I'll tell you about how our river shapes our architecture. For the first time, we shaped our river and gave it Chicago. It's not raining on my final 4th of July tour. Should we get into some buildings? Let's do it. And we're going to start with an absolute icon. It's so beautiful with the clouds behind it, the sun's coming out, man. I'm gonna cry. Ooh, the colors are circulating at the top there too. Beautiful clock tower up top, covered in over 250,000 white terracotta tiles. It's the Wrigley Building. Opened in 1924 when Chicago was still young, it was like a teenager. And like a teenager, Chicago didn't have its own identity established yet. So like a teenager, the city was trying on different styles. That's what teens do. The style of the Wrigley Building is Spanish revivalist style, taking direct inspiration from classical Spanish architecture. After this boat tour, with the spare dollars in your pocket, buy a plane ticket to Seville, Spain. In the center of that city is a cathedral with a magic clock tower, La Giralda Tower. We liked it, so we copied it. That building is literally Command C, Command V. We didn't have our own identity, so we copied things we liked. The tiles get brighter as you go up the building, done intentionally, because in 1924, that was our tallest building in the city. Imagine that. 102 years ago, just a few generations ago. But the city around us must have looked like very different. The city has always been expanding and changing, the city in motion, expanding all ways. We've expanded east, west, north, south, and most impressively, up. Lean back. You will see our second tallest skyscraper, open up 98 stories into the sky above, into the clouds, 2008 Charter National Hotel. I want to draw your attention to the 3 silver stripes that turn into balconies. Those are called setbacks, and each one is intentionally set at the height of a nearby building. The first, the same height as the Wrigley Building. The next two fall 2 buildings, past it on the right. This is a great example of an architectural philosophy known as contextualism, where the literal context around the building guides its design. Shows up again with the windows at the bottom. You see those wavy, curvy windows? They are reflecting the motion, the shape of the river below. Designed by a Chicago guy, local architect Adrian Smith. We call him the tallest architect in the world. He is 5'7", but he designed the tallest building in the world, the Burj Khalifa. Chicago architects, best city, best architects, maybe the best building. Up here behind it, a giant black box. AMA Plaza, the former IBM building in 1972, done in a style called black box modernism, a style that took over the world in 50s onward. Very special example of this style because it was designed by the founding father of the black box modernist movement, the German architect Ludwig Mies van der Rohe, his last design in Chicago. He was the last director of Bauhaus, the famous design school in Germany. He fled that country in the 30s, came here, he's changed skylines around the world. We'll talk about him later. Fun fact about me, here goes this in. A year and a half ago, I had a 9-to-5 job on my lunch breaks. I look at the see these folks think, man, I'd love to be a boat guy one day. Here I am because they think you'll all be boat tour guys, just about it. Right behind it, 2 giant corn cobs. We call them the corn cob towers. The apartments in the shape of corn triangle. that it should
you
be
are a student.
flower. And the architects who designed them was a student from East Van Row who thought outside of the box literally. Bertrand Goldberg, he thought that nature doesn't have right angles. Why should our buildings? He designed the curvy Marina City Towers, a Marina down below pier boats, and a city in the 60s. Because in the 60s, these were the tallest residential towers in the world and had a city inside them. Back then, inside, you could find
Parking.
supermarkets, ice skating rink, cocktail lounge, movie theater. A lady on my tour the other day told me she used to skate inside it. Had all these things because in the 60s, people needed convincing to stay in Chicago. Back then, the city wasn't safe, the city wasn't clean. The river in the 60s filled with trash, sewage waste. People were fleeing Chicago by the thousands to go to this new thing called the suburbs. Oh my God, the suburbs. So the janitors union. Why do keep jobs for janitors? There's some janitors out there. Shout out to janitors. Yes, they want to keep jobs for janitors. Create a city within a city. You live in your apartment after a few years. Today, the people in those corner condos pop out to enjoy the beautiful city, especially after the rain, and especially with those fireworks later. Coming up on the right, a red brick building representative of a time, the Reed Murdoch building from 1914. Back then, no pizzeria Portofino's along the river, but tons of other red brick buildings. Warehouses for grain and lumber, because in 1914, the river is a business highway. Folks loading and unloading goods all day, every day. Today, a place for leisure, a place for waving a lot of other people on a big wall to drive, a place for that strawberry fields. That's it. Secret about Reed Murdoch. On the near side, divided by pillars, 6 sets of windows. But on the far side, only 5. But there used to be a 6th. I'll tell you what happened. Remember my little thesis, the city in motion, changing and adapting. In the 1930s, so much business activity on the LaSalle Street Bridge up ahead, they have to expand the bridge. To expand the bridge, they quite literally go. They cut off a section of the Reed Murdoch. They added bricks right there to hide their secret. Here I am to spoil it for you. That secret on the house. You take that home. No longer a warehouse for grain and lumber. Today, the Reed Murdoch does have offices for Encyclopedia Britannica. I know all the young kids like their AI, their ChatGPT, whatever. But the OGs know when you had to turn your essay in, you turn to Encyclopedia Britannica. Shout out. Now, this tour of this city in motion, I want all 203 of you, each one of you, yes. Yes. We move by something, you find something on your own, maybe you don't talk about it, but you are inspired by it, drawn into it. With that in mind, I will draw your attention to the massive white limestone building coming out of the road. Largest building in the world, and it opened 1930. You have one chance at the bridge to see how far back
Chicago.
it goes. Inside
Outstate.
of it, 7.5 miles of hallways.
Steak House.
73 football fields, loft space. Had its own zip code until 2008, still has its own train station. A product of the roaring 20s when the champagne was bubbling, the money was flowing,